Hello, and welcome to The Queer Gaze, a gay movie podcast dedicated to examining queer representation and issues.
In today's episode, we're kicking off our exploration of queer films on the theme of sports gaze with the 2022 rugby film In From the Side. If you want to hear more of the discussion, including our Chili Pepper Award, please support The Queer Gaze at patreon.com/thequeergaze.
You'll also get early access to regular main feed episodes and extra content for every single episode. So at this point, that's 14 episodes, and we're averaging about 30 minutes per episode on the Patreon.
And you can follow us on social media at The Queer Gaze.
All right. So, Conrad, sports gaze.
Yes.
This is our theme.
It is. And as you can imagine, I'm right at home.
Your comfort level has been achieved and you're ready to go.
Yes, there will be lots of discussion about this bringing back horrible anxiety attacks and locker room flashbacks from the days when I had to do PE and I couldn't exercise in the privacy of my own home.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to relive the trauma with you.
Excellent. You can hold my hand.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Okay, so what is this movie?
This is In From the Side. It's a British indie drama directed by Matt Carter, who co-wrote the screenplay with Adam Silver, based on their experience in the LGBTQ+ and rugby communities. It was produced on a shoestring budget, and by shoestring I mean low. It's about the equivalent of $60,000, I think, estimated.
Yeah, that is wild because I actually think this film looks really good.
I know, for incredibly as well, because Carter is also, I mean, must be a very talented guy. He's also credited as composer, cinematographer, editor, casting director, and costume designer.
Okay. So this is a passion project. It's I'm doing everything because I have $0 to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then when you think about how it looks and how it sounds, it's really quite impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It premiered at BFI's Flair Festival in 2022 and was recognised for its grounded portrayal of queer identity outside traditional coming out narratives, as well as its exploration of a hyper-masculine but inclusive subculture. It centres on Mark, played by Alexander Lincoln, and Warren, played by Alexander King, two Alexanders, it must have been hell on set,
Double the Alexanders.
who become entangled in a clandestine relationship that threatens to disrupt the fragile dynamics of their queer rugby team, as well as their lives.
Yeah, that's burying the lead, or maybe putting the lead to the side.
Yeah, they're being rather naughty boys.
Big old adulterers, yes.
Yes. Well, is anyone married?
No, they're just in long-term relationships, and Mark is in an open relationship, but there are rules. He's not supposed to have any repeat sexual guests, and he's supposed to confide in his partner, who is Richard, played by Alex Hammond, and he does not do that. And then Warren's boyfriend, John, who is played by Peter McPherson, they are not open. So he's not supposed to be doing this at all.
No, and he's in the rugby team as well.
Yes, yeah, they're both A-level players. And you're just like, wow, we are really playing with fire here.
We are, yes. Warren is slumming it in the B team by having a secret affair with Mark.
Yeah.
Now, this is a milieu I'm not familiar with, LGBTQ+ sports teams.
Oh, okay. That's wild because I play on two.
Okay. Is this evocation? Maybe it's different culturally in a different country, but is this evocation of what the sort of dynamics are from your experience?
It's interesting. I mean, the A-level to B-level stuff is a little bit foreign to me, and I'll confess that in the film, it wasn't entirely clear if the A-level is entirely composed of gay men as well, or if it's just the B-level team. Because we learned that the B-level team is composed of primarily novice or like excitable newcomers who have discovered the sport late in life because they were queer and they maybe didn't feel welcome and so on. So the whole secondary plot of the film is whether or not this B team is going to be cut because they're not good enough to win games because they're all amateurs, whereas the A level is quite good and they've done well. And I've definitely encountered that in my own personal life where like there's competitive leagues for volleyball or even things like dodgeball, but then there's also intermediate or amateur or beginner level. So people who don't know the sport, they just want to learn and they want to come out and socialize with people. And admittedly, sometimes that involves like, I'm here to meet people, but maybe also hook up or find someone that I'm going to be dating long term. So yeah, this all actually feels pretty authentic to a lot of the experiences that I've had.
Although I imagine the sports that you're playing don't involve quite as much blood, mud, and grappling with bodies in
No,
public.
I play in the volleyball league here in Toronto as well as the curling league, and it's much less of a contact sports. But we do have a gay rugby league here in Toronto. So, seeing this, I was like, yeah, okay, if you lived in a big enough queer city with a population that could support it, you would absolutely see something like this.
Well, it was fascinating for me because it's not something I'm familiar with. So to see somebody take that milieu and to set this kind of, I hate to say it, sort of soap opera-y relationship drama in there,
Yeah.
it made it unique, it made it distinctive, even though the drama itself perhaps isn't.
Yeah.
And the thing that baffled me about it was that although the film is quite languorous in terms of its pace, I mean, it's over 2 hours long.
2 hours and 14 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a surprise. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Although it takes its time, you think that's, in most cases, that's because it's trying to create a mood, it's trying to generate a tone. It definitely does those things with its slow motion sequences, its montages, and its dreamy London at night with...
So romantic.
It is, yeah. There's lots of flautando string chords and piano drifting around on the soundtrack. It's all very Arvo part. And yeah, I love it. But I was expecting that it would take that time to do something that was quite profound or quite deep or quite complex. I didn't necessarily find that.
No.
I found the characters fairly shallow and I found the dilemmas they were facing fairly simple, or at least not explored enough to really warrant the amount of time that they were taking over.
Yes, and I gathered that that was one of the pervasive criticisms of critics. Like, it doesn't have a huge number of reviews on places like Rotten Tomatoes, but a lot of people said, it's well produced, it's well acted, it looks great, but it is a little too languid, and there just isn't quite enough substance. Like, there's not enough meat on the bone here. I felt both of those things. Like, I found myself fully invested in it, and I did find that it was very familiar and occasionally even predictable in terms of its arcs and some of its, conflict. And part of my struggle is that I can't tell if the reason that it didn't bother me all that much. Like, normally, if I turn on a movie and it's over 2 hours, I think, well, you better have a really fucking good reason for this. And here, okay, this is where I sound super duper shallow, Conrad. I found these men incredibly attractive, and part of me was like, oh no, I have to watch the hot, sexy men engage in these adulterous affairs and into snafus and that kind of stuff. And okay, sure, if it requires me watching these men do this for 2 hours, like, oh no, I guess I got to do it for the podcast.
Yes, I mean, it was hardly a struggle. Alexander Lincoln particularly is quite a striking leading man.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that frustrated me the most about it was I couldn't really see what the issues were. There was a lot of hand-wringing and, oh, we can't be together, and oh, the moment has passed and you had your chance and you missed it. I thought, but what's the issue?
What's the struggle?
Yeah. What's he done?
Well, okay, can we unpack that? Because I do feel like that is the real crux of the film. And I completely agree with you. Like, I think I even said in my Letterboxd review, I was like, what if white gays cheated the movie?
Yeah.
And I think inherently that is a struggle that the film never really overcomes. Like, it's a challenge to justify not just the film's existence, but this runtime because it is so surface level. It's like, okay, so you're both in relationships that are clearly not working. Like, you should get out of them because the reason that you're attracted to this other person is because you're not getting something from the person that you're with. And it feels like that is an issue that both Mark and Warren struggle with. Like, they want to do a lot of hand wringing, they really want to be together, but they're in these other relationships, and you think, so end the other relationships. What's the problem, boys? And the film, ironically enough, never really gets there. It wants to treat this romance as, oh, this is this special thing that we could have had, but the timing was wrong, and then the moment passed. And there's this air of tragedy at the end of the film where you think, oh God, we're meant to root for them to be together. And I spent a large portion of this film being like, you two are dum-dums. Just break up with your boyfriends and get together if that's what you actually want.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that's where we were headed because, I mean, it did just feel like a slightly, I hate this term, elevated rom-com.
Right.
In the sense that you got all of the usual beats. So when we're introduced to Mark's long-term partner, Richard, he has all the hallmarks of you're not supposed to care about this asshole.
Oh, yeah. He's always leaving.
He's always leaving. He has no interest in Mark's sports club at all. At one point, he even refers to it as football or a little team or something. I mean, he's just got negligent asshole. Yeah, tattooed on his forehead. So you think, okay, we don't care what happens to this guy, so bring on the love interest.
Yeah, yeah.
But it seems to try to go for something that's, I don't know, more complex and interesting and nuanced by having Richard show up at his game at the end. So you think, oh, are they going to get back together again? And it's just like, no, it's so he can flirt with soccer mom.
I think it's meant to be this is something that's important to you and you used to be important to me, or we used to be important to each other. So I'm going to make this last ditch attempt. And I thought, okay, this is an opportunity for closure between the two of them, because really we just get the fight and the breakup and then it's over and Richard is out of the movie for like the entire last act. But there's this very confusing moment where Mark says, well, maybe we can get a drink later. And it's not like, and I can make it up to you, I can apologize, and then we can go our separate ways. Like, I very much read it as Mark thinks maybe they might get back together, even though at this point he's moved out, he's living on his own, you know, he's done what I presume is at least weeks or maybe even months of wallowing. And I thought, okay, so all of that time in a conventional film, you would have then realized this person is not right for me. And we would still get the same ending, which is that Mark is alone. Mm-hmm. But I would have thought that he had chosen it as opposed to seemingly Richard chooses this for him. Like, no, we're not getting back together. I just came here to be like, I'm glad you went back to rugby.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. I did not know where the film was taking me at that point. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit lost.
Okay, but I do want to ask you about this, because I think as much as a lot of these arcs are pretty familiar, and it's, yes, like Pretty People with Shallow Problems, the film, I will confess, I think the thing that strikes me as the most interesting and the most unconventional about In From the Side is that it does ask us to root for a relationship between two people who are committing infidelity. Like, and I thought that was really interesting because, like, I'm someone who's been cheated on and I have a lot of issues with it. Like, it took me a very long time to watch any film that involved someone stepping out on their partner because it was just kind of like a mild form of PTSD. And I don't want to belabor the point or make it out to be some kind of life-changing thing, but like it was a big deal for me. And it was so interesting to watch this movie and say, oh, our two leads, like the romantic couple of the film, are immediately introduced as bad guys, because even though we know that they're not right for their partners, the fact is that they still have partners that they are being unfaithful to. And the movie wants us to root for them. And I thought that was an interesting challenge for the film to sort of say, this is how we're going to set everything up.
But it does happen quite a lot in the straights rom-coms particularly,
Right.
especially when you introduce the negligent husband and
Yeah.
the one that's got arsehole tattooed across his forehead, and he's only in one scene at the beginning, and
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Or the shrill girlfriend or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't stray too far from that formula. Perhaps it doesn't make the original partner nasty enough. Perhaps
Hmm.
it doesn't show the main character guilty enough
Right.
about what he's doing,
Yeah.
really. In fact, he seems quite gleeful about it the whole time.
Yeah, like you almost get the impression that Warren is a bit more upset about it, but he just can't help himself. Like Mark seems a little bit happy to step away from Richard because Richard is just so clearly coded as a bad guy, whereas Warren's boyfriend, John, actually seems very nice every time we meet him. Like we go out for drinks with him, he seems nice. We see him at a Christmas party, he seems nice. He's like I'm just like, "Oh, we don't really get a sense of what the true conflict is between him and Warren, except that maybe Mark is just so interesting to Warren that he has to pursue him. And I do think that the film is a little uneven in that we never truly get a sense of who Warren is or what instigates this attraction and this dalliance. Like, we understand Mark because he is the protagonist, but Warren remains a bit of a mystery.
He does, although I would argue that we don't really understand why these two are attracted to each other beyond physical attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we spend Christmas together
Oh my
or we
God.
go on a date in a fairground, for
Mm-hmm.
goodness sake,
Yeah.
it turns into a musical montage
Oh,
and we
yes.
stop hearing them talking.
Yes.
So we don't really get an awful lot of insight from them. We get more insight into the main character's mother than we do into the two leads.
Okay. Yes, you are absolutely right. And like, I had to stop myself from interrupting you because to me, the movie coasts along. As we said, like familiar, repetitive, maybe just a little too safe in some ways, right? Like we've seen a lot of this before, albeit with often less attractive people, like this cast. Really good. And then we get to Christmas, which I was just like, you are bringing a new person to Christmas, even though your parents know that you have been with this other person for a long time. So this was wild. Mark is wild for doing this. But then, yeah, we get this conversation between Mark and his mom late at night after a day of ski tripping, comedic hijinks because Warren can't ski very well. And we learned that Mark's mom and dad basically were in relationships with other people and they ended up getting together. And the mom has come to accept that the dad will step out on her over the course of their, what is it, like 20 or 25-year marriage. And she's had to accept it. And she loves him and they've had this great life. And she's so happy that she ended up having Mark. But also, like, this was a decision that she had to willingly accept. If I'm going to be with this man, we started as a result of infidelity and he will continue to do so. And this for me was like the moment that the film really cracks open because I think this is really interesting, really insightful, and to the point where it almost makes the rest of the movie not as successful because you realize it's not as interesting as what we're getting right now.
Yeah, it's almost a previous generation's version of an open relationship.
Yes, and straight people, which I feel like movies
Yeah,
don't often talk about.
not at all. You're absolutely right. Now, I love her line, a relationship born of deception surely creates more.
Yeah.
So I think she's not advocating for him not doing it. She's just advocating on him going into it with his eyes wide open.
Yes.
But he doesn't seem to be able to do that, which
No.
is really peculiar.
Yeah. And I wonder, would this movie be more successful? Like, here's the thing, I'm recommending this film. I think you just kind of like that line. You just need to know what you're getting yourself into if you're going to enjoy it. Like, you have to be
Yeah.
comfortable with a certain level of surface analysis as opposed to something with a bit more depth or a bit more complication to it. But I do wonder if the film would have been more interesting if we had have actually watched Mark make the conscious decision to pursue Warren, knowing that, like maybe at the end of the film, he discovers that Warren has begun stepping out on him. Like, and I don't know if that would have been more satisfying because at the end of the day, this film is a romantic drama. Like, it wants us to swoon for these two. So I think that would just ruin the fantasy. But I do think it might have made for a more complicated, interesting film.
Yeah. In the end, it's neither. So it sort of brings on board some of the aesthetics and the story beats of a rom-com,
Yeah.
especially when it starts playing around in fairgrounds and Christmases.
Hmm.
But it has the tone of something that's more poignant and serious, like All of Us Strangers or something along those
Right.
lines. But it's nowhere near as fluffy and entertaining and empty-headed as the former, and it's nowhere near as insightful or as moving as the latter. So it kind of
It's in the
falls in this
middle, right? And
weird space in
doesn't quite
between.
work as a result.
Yeah, no, it doesn't quite. But I still admire the attempt
Hmm.
for sure, especially knowing the budget and knowing how many hats the director was wearing at the same time, which is quite impressive.
Yeah. Maybe before we transition over to Patreon, so we can talk about some of the saucy bits and some of the ridiculous parts of the film, we're covering this in part because we're looking at queers in sports. So, how did you feel this worked in terms of integrating the rugby? Like, I don't know how familiar you are with the sport. I know it reasonably well. My sister played it, my parents watch it. So, I actually really admired the way that these scenes were shot, even though at times it felt so operatic and the score is so bombastic. I had to almost laugh because it's just like, wow, we are really making this seem like it is life or death on the field.
Yeah, I think the most ridiculous moment is a scene that quite clearly was temp tracked with a cue from Daft Punk's score for Tron Legacy,
Okay.
with big like Hans Zimmer brass clusters and so on. It's like this is a slow motion local rugby match.
I know. Yeah, I was getting
Calm
like
down.
I was getting Helms Deep.
Yeah, exactly. Although, to be fair, my own childhood experience of playing rugby at school was pretty much, I remember it as Helm's Deep. So
Okay. Yeah.
fair enough. So, yeah, it was a little bit ridiculous. But to answer your question, I mean, it does come across as, it feels very authentic to me as a depiction of local teams playing.
Hmm.
And it does feel as though it's like a hallmark of British queer movies for some reason, and even TV shows, because dare I speak its name, Heartstopper has rugby in it too.
Hmm.
And obviously we'll be exploring another one
Yeah.
in this series. So yeah, no, it did feel that it captured the milieu for me. And I almost cared more about the team
Right.
than the two leads. I was sort of hoping that they'd just quieten things down so their team would be all right.
Yeah, I mean it is something that's going on in the background. So we learn something about a couple of the other players. We'll probably talk more about them when we hop on over to Patreon, but I was interested in how the film showcases that the aftermath, or sort of the shotgun burst in terms of effect when they get discovered, is that this actually jeopardizes everybody's future on the team because, as I said, the B level is in danger of being disbanded. And part of the reason that they were performing well is because Warren drops down so that he can be closer to Mark, but he ends up helping them to win games, which maybe suggests, okay, we will keep these individuals. And then, of course, Mark also ends up leaving the team briefly because he can't be around Warren, he can't be around John, he can't be around the judgment of his fellow players, and so on. So I guess I appreciated the percolating effects of how the affair affects these other queer men who really are just looking to build friendships and have community in a sport that they didn't feel comfortable playing when they were younger. So I liked that as something that was happening in the background.
Yeah, I did too. That was the element of it that was new and interesting for me. So that was a bit I enjoyed. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Maybe one final thing, just because it does get highlighted in so many other reviews, is the fact that, yeah, there's no AIDS storyline, there's no coming out storyline, and there's no homophobia in this movie. And I thought
No.
that that was interesting. Like 2022, ideally, this is where we would be at. But the fact that so many people singled it out told me maybe we weren't as far along in terms of queer representation in films as I thought we were.
Yeah. No, they don't come across the homophobic team and end up fighting and get
Right.
thrown off the team or
Yeah.
yeah, there's none of that. It's
Mm-mm.
conspicuous in its absence
Yes.
almost. But that makes you wonder whether we've progressed as a society and depictions haven't, or whether this perhaps is a little naive. Who
Yeah,
knows?
as I said, I think there's a certain fantasy element to many aspects of the film, and I can't help but feel like that is unfortunately one of them. But at the same time, we turn to media in part as a form of escapism. So if folks are looking for something where it's like, oh, I want to watch hot men fuck and also not have to deal with homophobia, maybe this is for you.
Yep. And if you want to see a small provincial rugby match choreographed, scored and shot as though it is Gladiator,
yes,
this is your movie.
This is also your movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we hop over to Patreon so that we can talk about some of this in a bit more specific detail. But yeah, folks, if you want to join us over there, we've got lots of other exclusive bonus content. And if not, then we will see you back here in a couple of weeks where we're going to be talking about another rugby film, 2016's Handsome Devil.
Ooh, can't wait.